Welcome to Nexus Network News, the alternative news media you can trust. Here are the headlines. Smoke rises from former RAF base as the confirmed dead after fire. Trump's second day in the Middle East as the United States president gets ready to leave. The military are caught in another scandal as military police unfit to investigate sex offenses claimed by victims of sexual harassment. Who is behind M&S cyber attack? And what does it mean for UK businesses? Sean Paul explains how he uses AI. And the UK budget explained in 60 seconds. Smoke rises from former RAF base as 3 confirmed dead after fire. 2 firefighters and a member of the public have died in a large fire in Bicester, the fire service announced. The firefighters died while fighting the inferno at a former RAF base in Oxfordshire, which now hosts historic motoring and aviation centre Bicester Motion. Bicester Motion said in a statement that a close friend of the site also died in the blaze. The local fire service was called to the scene at 6:39 p.m. last night. Chief Fire Officer Rob McDougall said, "It is with a very heavy heart that we today report the loss of 2 of our firefighters. Families have been informed and are being supported. Our thoughts are with them at this most difficult of times, and we ask for privacy to be respected." Local councillor Liam Walker also shared the devastating news of the 3 deaths, adding that his thoughts are with the families and friends at this difficult time. 2 other firefighters sustained serious injuries and are currently being treated in hospital, Oxfordshire County Council said in a statement. Kieran McGurk, who lives opposite Bicester Motion, said he heard multiple explosions and loud bangs. Another resident, who gave her name only as Ellie, said she saw a big black plume of smoke coming out of the Bicester Motion buildings on Thursday night. "I heard loads of pops and crackles and bangs. It was quite bad. It was so weird because I had my blinds shut at the time and I was like, what is going on?" she said. 10 fire crews attended the incident, with 4 remaining at the scene. The blaze is still ongoing, but it is considered under control. The cause of the fire is not yet known. President Trump spent the second day of his trip to the Middle East discussing Syria and Gaza. This is his last day there as he tries to fix the Israeli and Palestinian conflict.
I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. I'm also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. And I spoke to Mohammed, and I spoke to our friend from Turkey, who we just spoke to also by phone now. But felt very strongly that this would give them a chance. It's not going to be easy anyway, so it gives them a good, strong chance. The whole world is watching the Middle East, and many are watching with envy. You have something very special going on. And we'll stand with our friends and partners, and we'll confront the aggression that threatens us all. I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. But for that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Military police unfit to investigate sex offences. Sexual harassment claims against the UK military are not being investigated properly by the military police claim victims.
It's men protecting men, and they're also trying to protect the image of the army.
Misogyny and sexual abuse at the heart of the Royal Military Police. Crime covered up by the very regiment charged with policing the army. That's the claim of this whistleblower, a sergeant who served in the RMP for more than a decade.
Treatment of women in the RMP is just toxic, degrading and disgusting.
Amy says the military police protects abusers, including sex offenders, within its own ranks.
Sexual assault and bullying and rapes are going on within the military police. How can they then go out and investigate the wider army if you're doing the same thing? It doesn't work.
She says she not only witnessed abuse but was a target, assaulted by a staff sergeant, one of the highest-ranking soldiers in her unit.
He preyed on the young, new females that were in the unit. And one day I was out with my friends in town and he was on patrol. Two of us went over to speak to him. And he hooked his finger around my top and pulled my boob out. And then he grabbed my hand and put it on his penis.
She says it followed months of harassment, and she wasn't alone. More than a dozen women reported him.
So this was a criminal investigation where the Royal Military Police were investigating one of their own. What was the outcome?
They basically told me he's not going to be charged, but he will be leaving the military. Doing him a favour because he's not going to lose his pension and whatever else he would have lost with a dishonourable discharge. They made him resign, basically, so he's left without a criminal record.
And she claims there are other men in the RMP who've been accused of sexual offences.
I've known of rapes within the RMP. I've known of 5 off the top of my head.
5 rapes?
5, yeah.
Her decision to speak to Sky News gives a rare insight into the Royal Military Police and a culture that she blames for the failure to bring army sex offenders to justice. Her first-hand account will reinforce the view of many women that the RMP allows men to get away with sexual abuse. Earlier this year, an inquest into the suicide of gunner Jaisley Beck found she'd been failed by the army after reporting sexual assault. Since then, Sky News has reported claims of widespread abuse from army women, prompting Katie to contact us. She began her career in the same division as gunner Beck. She too was sexually assaulted.
I went in to help fix some of the equipment, and there was a crew of 5 or 6 men in there, and then from behind I was grabbed, dry humped. There was laughing amongst them. I just wanted to get out. When I left, I reported it to my line manager, and he laughed. And then he sort of scruffled my hair in a way of quieting me down to brush it off.
She moved to a different unit, but found wherever she went, abuse was rife.
I was sexually assaulted again by a line manager. I was groped, essentially. I tried to report it.
She assumed her chain of command would contact the military police, but they didn't.
There was no investigation. I was then told off for reporting it, saying that it was unnecessary. I remember at the time saying I'd like to call the civilian police, and I was told that I wasn't allowed to do that and I'd be disciplined if I tried to do that. So I was so frightened.
Despite everything, she went on to serve for 20 years, fought in Afghanistan and rose to the rank of captain.
I kept this goal in my head of reaching a position one day where I could help other women. When I got there, actually, I realised the officer corps were actually the worst perpetrators of all because they brushed it under the carpet.
A Ministry of Defence spokesperson told Sky News that unacceptable and criminal behaviour has absolutely no place in our armed forces. Since Gunner Beck's death, the government has announced a new tri-service complaints team, taking the most serious complaints out of the chain of single service command. Amy says it's not enough.
So how do you think investigations into sexual assault and harassment in the military should be handled?
Completely separate from the military. You can't have people investigating the mates. It doesn't work like that. That's how people are getting away with stuff, and then they're able to do it again.
She's backed by the Labour chair of the influential Defence Select Committee, who's adding to calls for investigations to be removed from the military altogether.
If those brave servicewomen who are putting themselves forward, if they don't feel that the system is right, we then need to listen to them and take action accordingly.
Do you think investigations into sexual offences should be taken away from the Royal Military Police?
But incidents of sexual violence and sexual assaults should be dealt with not by the Royal Military Police, but by civilian police and by civilian courts.
And that's what Labour backed in opposition. As a Labour MP, what would you say to your party now in government that hasn't made this change?
I hope that the government will be making that substantial change in the very, very near future. In fact, they should do it ASAP.
Is it in the interest of the RMP to turn a blind eye, protect the reputation of the army at all costs, with victims of sexual abuse paying the price? Becky Johnson, Sky News.
Cyber attacks hit M&S as well as other UK businesses. Is this an attack by Russia or China in response to the UK pushing for war with Russia over the Ukraine conflict and actively arming and funding Ukraine with British taxpayers' money? Only time will tell if this is a precursor to an actual hot war between the West and the East.
Marks and Spencer's are dealing with a huge cyber attack, with customers facing empty shelves and problems shopping online. So what's going on and who could be behind it? It looks like they may have been hacked by a group called Scattered Spider. They're this really infamous group that work online, but they're not kind of one homogenous blob. They have different factions working under one umbrella term. They're so notorious within the world of cybercrime that one cybersecurity company has made a figurine of a scattered spider for people to keep on their desks and remember to stay ever vigilant against the threat that they pose. But what makes this group different is they're thought to be from the UK, the US and Europe. And they're known for using people's human vulnerabilities to get into systems, not just hacking straight into computers. They do things like pretending to be IT support workers or sending people fake login links, hoping that someone will be tricked into clicking on them. They're locked in this kind of cat and mouse game with the police and other law enforcement agencies around the world who are trying to catch them and disrupt their activities. And all this hacking makes good money. Their highest profile attack was on a casino system. They managed to shut down the casino and held those systems ransom until the company, Caesars, paid them more than $15 million in order to get their systems released. At the moment, M&S say its customers don't need to do anything like change their login details, but as the attack continues to cripple the business, M&S is thought to be losing millions of pounds.
Girl, listen, Kenya, the queen of my dream. When you mean body clean, bring it, come to me. Ready when you're ready, anytime you need me. Now go there, feel lonely.
AI music, should it be embraced or feared? Are we now seeing the death of the musician?
It just changes the game how it's played now. But if you're a good game player, when it changes, you adapt to it. And so for me, I'm not worried about it. I've used it for trying to finish rhythm patterns that I have. I had a drum and a bass track that I produced and it wasn't a finished product. And so I was like, let me get some ideas from AI, let me see if that works. And then put Cantonese guitar on it and I put this different style on it and I immediately produced hundreds of different variations of the same track. I thought, let me take this bass from here, that part of the bass there, let me do this here. And so I use it as a tool, as I think everybody should. If it does happen that AI takes my stuff and I'm never compensated because of it, I will fight that though. If somebody uses like Get Busy, and there must be something that can be done about it, you know what I mean?
The cyber attacks as well as all the other recent attacks on UK supermarkets and businesses must be taken seriously by all of the West, as this could be the first blows of World War III. With a nuclear power at war in Europe and two nuclear powers fighting in Asia, then we must hope and therefore force our politicians to release the doves of peace instead of fanning the flames of war. The warmongering of the Western European leaders must be seen in the light of depopulate and implant, whereby they get a foreign power to become the bad guys and start a nuclear war when it's the European Western leaders that want this planet depopulated. Here is the rest of the news headlines.
Coming up this lunchtime, No one wants to watch their loved ones suffer at the very end of their life, and people who are dying want choice.
The debate over assisted dying is back in Parliament today. Plus, MPs are warning changes to inheritance tax on farmland could be damaging, and trading standards say illegal nasal tanning sprays being sold on social media are dangerous. I'm Andy Hoyle. This is the Lunchtime News from Radio News Hub. First, a look at some of today's top stories. 2 firefighters and a member of the public have died in a major blaze at the former RAF base in Bicester. The fire broke out yesterday with 10 crews responding and 2 more firefighters seriously injured. The blaze is now under control as investigations continue. MPs are warning the government's falling behind in tackling violence against women and girls, with support services overwhelmed and prevention efforts lacking. A report says 1 in 5 crimes relates to such violence, yet many victims are turned away due to rising demand. The Home Office is being urged to lead stronger coordinated action across departments. And a 21-year-old Ukrainian man is due in court today, charged with 3 counts of arson linked to the Prime Minister. Fires were reported at 2 North London homes and a car connected to Sir Keir Starmer. The Met's Counter-Terror Command is leading the investigation. Well, the debate over assisted dying returns to Parliament today with strong views on both sides. Supporters call it a compassionate choice, but critics warn of serious risks. Ellie Robson reports.
Yes, MPs are back in Westminster for a key stage of the assisted dying bill, a proposal that could allow terminally ill to choose how and when they die. It's a like Dame Esther Ranson and Sir Keir Starmer, but faces growing opposition. Nathan Stillwell from campaign group My Decision says it's
suffer at the very end of their life. And people who are dying want choice. I think it's absolutely right to give a bit of control back to people who are facing the very end of their life, so that they can decide and they can make that choice.
But medical voices are divided. Both the Royal College of Physicians and the Royal College of Psychiatrists have voiced concerns, and some say investment should go into end-of-life care instead. Jan Noble runs St Christopher's Hospice in London.
We want to make sure most of all that people have got all the options weighed up for them. And that does come back to the adequate funding for us of how is this going to happen. We're not funded appropriately for the whole of hospice care.
Well, today's 5-hour debate may not bring a final vote, but it's another step in a long-running conversation. Amendments will be discussed and the issue remains deeply personal and deeply divisive.
Well, now plans to reform inheritance tax on farmland have sparked warnings from MPs who say the changes could damage vulnerable farms. The chair of a key Commons committee says trust in government policy is at risk. Lizzie Coots has more.
A cross-party group of MPs is calling on the government to delay the farming inheritance tax reforms by a year, warning they could hit the most vulnerable farmers. Under current plans, agricultural assets over £1 million will face a 20% inheritance tax from April 2026. Previously, they were exempt. The committee is chaired by Lib Dem MP Alistair Carmichael.
There is a real risk that the way in which they are doing it is going to be a genuine problem for the future of farming in this country. It's very important to farmers and farming and food production that farmers can hand on the farm from one generation to the next.
The Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee says the policy was rushed, with no consultation or impact assessment before being announced. It's also criticised the sudden halt to green farming schemes, warning of long-term trust issues.
What the government have proposed actually risks penalising the people they say they want to protect, the people they say they want to penalise, the super wealthy here. Even as things stand, it will still be an attractive proposition for rich people to buy up land.
The MPs want final reforms postponed until October 2026, taking effect in 2027. They've urged the government to work with the sector and rebuild trust following mass farmer protests in Westminster.
Still to come, trading standards say dangerous and illegal nasal tanning sprays are being widely sold on social media. And we look ahead to this evening's Premier League games. A reminder of our top stories this lunchtime. The debate over assisted dying returns to Parliament with strong views on both sides. And 2 firefighters and a member of the public have died in a major blaze at a former RAF base in Oxfordshire. Dangerous and illegal nasal tanning sprays are being widely sold on social media, prompting urgent warnings from trading standards. The unregulated products have been linked to serious health risks, including potential skin cancer. Here's Grace McIntosh with more.
Unlicensed nasal tanning sprays are being marketed to young people online, often in sweet flavours like bubblegum and strawberry. Trading standards say the sprays contain the banned chemical melatonin 2 and could cause severe reactions, even a possible link to melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer. Gary Littman is the chairman of the Sunbed Association.
The products themselves are in fact illegal and shouldn't be purchased either over the counter or online. The ingredients are not suitable, are not certified.
The Chartered Trading Standards Institute says it's seeing a worrying rise in use, often fuelled by influencer promotion on platforms like TikTok. One woman was hospitalised after struggling to breathe from a reaction to a spray she bought online. A recent survey of trading standards officers found that unsafe cosmetic products were the biggest emerging threat to UK consumers.
I would encourage your listeners not to purchase these products because they're uncertified and in fact illegal. When using a sunbed, always use a lotion that is specifically blended for use with sunbeds.
Consumers are urged to avoid any tanning products that are inhaled or ingested and stick to safe, regulated creams and sprays. Suspicious products can be reported via Citizens Advice or local trading standards.
Business news now, and the Hinduja families topped the Sunday Times rich list for the fourth year in a row, despite a £2 billion drop in their fortune to £35.3 billion. The number of UK billionaires has fallen for a third consecutive year, down to 156. Sir James Dyson and Manchester United investor Sir Jim Ratcliffe also feature among the top 20 wealthiest. UK Toymaker Character Group says US trading remains uncertain after halting shipments of Chinese-made goods due to soaring tariffs. Though tariffs have since eased, global sales have been hit by cautious customers. The firm still expects to stay profitable despite an 8% drop in revenue. In entertainment news, Chris Brown set to appear in a Manchester court today, charged with grievous bodily harm after an alleged nightclub attack in London last year. The R&B star was arrested yesterday. The case comes weeks before his planned UK tour. Eurovision party spending is set to rise slightly this year, with fans expecting to shell out £76 on average. Food, drinks and fancy dress top the list of expenses. Despite that, a growing number of viewers say they won't be spending anything at all. Jill Citybridge is here now with a look at the sport.
The two games this evening in the Premier League with interest at both ends of the table. Spurs travel to Aston Villa, who are unbeaten at Villa Park in their last 20 games across all competitions. It's also Unai Emery's 100th game in charge of Villa, kick-offs at 7:30. And Chelsea welcome Manchester United to Stamford Bridge, with the Blues still looking to bolster their European credentials for next season. United boss Ruben Amorim has spoken in the build-up to the game.
The best way to face the game, like we should face the game, is to win the game. We need to perform. We need to win points in Premier League, and that is the feeling. And that was we talk about that after West Ham. So we need to improve in the way we face competitions, stay focused in every moment of the game.
Masters champion Rory McIlroy faces an uphill battle to claim back-to-back major titles after an error-strewn opening round of the 107th US PGA Championship. The Northern Irishman is 10 shots off the lead going into the second round. And Barcelona secured their 28th La Liga title with a 2-0 win at 10-man Espanyol. Despite Real Madrid's late win over Mallorca on Wednesday night, Hansi Flick's side new victory at the RCD Stadium would secure them the championship with 2 games remaining.
And finally, the weather, a dry day with plenty of warm sunshine, some cloud and a cooling breeze will continue in the east, a high of around 21 degrees Celsius. I'm Andy Hoyle, that's the lunchtime news from Radio News Hub. More on those stories on our social media and online at radionewshub.com.